Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is time for the best case scenario for all 32 NFL teams. This is part one of four. 8 teams will be covered in this part. Um, Again, originally this was actually going to be a two-part video, but then the recording I was doing was extremely long. And I honestly, you guys don't need to be watching a movie on here, you know? And then even before that, I was actually going to do just a one-part video, and it was all 32 teams in one video. And that definitely wasn't going to work. So here we are with 4 parts. This is part one of four, as I mentioned, covering 8 teams per video, and we'll be discussing each team's kind of their ceiling almost, or the best case scenario they could possibly have for the 2026 NFL season. So, for an example, what would be the best case scenario for the Bengals? Well, simple, get back to the playoffs because they've missed the playoffs for what, the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, I don't know if they can make the Super Bowl, but certainly get back to the playoffs at least. Anyways, what you see on screen is every team we will be covering in today's video. So if you don't see your team on there, well, then your team is likely in part 2, 3, or 4. Um, if you have any questions, though, you could ask a comment and, ask which part your team might be, because I already have it laid out of which team is in which part. So, for an example, the Seahawks are in part 2. Fuck, I forgot. I was going to mention the Patriots, but I forgot what part they're in. I think they're in part 3 or 4. Nevertheless, so that's kind of the gist of today's video. Every team will have different goals. Not every team will even have positive goals, to be honest, because like the Cardinals, well, they suck. They're not going to make the playoffs. Their best case scenario is to suck, I guess. You know, sorry, draft capital. I guess that would be the saying, or maybe I don't know, but they're not going to be good this year. Anyways, our first team is, of course, you saw on the list, will be, of course, the Los Angeles Rams. What is their best case scenario for the 2026 NFL season? Now, the Rams are, honestly, a lot of people are favoring them to win the Super Bowl, and a lot of people even say they can go 17-0, which that's a tall task. A lot of people are generally thinking that the Rams could go 17-0, and I'm sorry, but I just don't think that's possible. We haven't had an undefeated team that went all the way and win the Super Bowl since the Dolphins. And the closest thing we had the Patriots, which what year was that? 2008? I don't actually remember. But they didn't win the Super Bowl because they lost to the Giants. Now the Rams schedule isn't particularly difficult, but let's take a look at it. Week 1, they're playing the Niners in Australia. I do believe the Rams are a better team, but since it's in Australia, it's a international game that could really flip things and really make it difficult for the Rams to potentially win. Giants, they can beat the Giants. The Broncos in Denver, I think that could be a tough game that they possibly lose. Philadelphia is still a good team. Bills are good. The Cardinals are shit. Raiders, meh. Packers, I'm going to skip over it. Packers, Cowboys, um, Chiefs, they got some tough games, but I just don't think 17-0 is possible for really any modern NFL team. I just don't think it's a thing. I mean, it could be, but and we all know about the rumors that Aaron Donald might come out of retirement, and if they get him, could they still go 17-0? I still don't think so because I mean he's been not trying to doubt his abilities at all, but he's been retired for what? How many years now? 3 years, 2 years, whatever. We all know that they have Myles Garrett though. That is a huge game changer. What is their best case scenario? I think the best case scenario for the Los Angeles Rams, which I don't think they'd want it to have it any other way, is to win Super Bowl 61. Now, they're all obviously things can happen, injuries can happen, and obviously the NFC West is a relatively tough division. You got the Rams, of course, you got the defending Super Bowl champs, the Seattle Seahawks, and you got the 49ers, which I believe the Niners are weaker than both the Seahawks and the Rams. I just think the Seahawks and Rams are better in almost a lot of categories compared to the 49ers, but I think the 49ers are still capable of competing and possibly at least splitting with either the Seahawks or the Rams. I do believe that the Rams are miles ahead of the 49ers at least. But I still think that the Niners and Rams will likely split. Same thing with the Seahawks and Niners. Maybe. Kind of just depends on how things go. But overall, the Rams, they have a great roster. Obviously, you have MVP Matthew Stafford. You got great offense. You got a great coach, Sean McVay. You got a good defense, an upgraded defense in the secondary, and of course, you got Myles Garrett, which you might end up getting Aaron Donald. If if Aaron Donald comes out of retirement, we don't know if it's going to happen. There's been nothing so far yet. It's possible, but right now, I just think let's just talk about it again as a scenario where there is no Aaron Donald, or even with him. The Rams are a good team, and I do believe they obviously will make the playoffs. I mean, the only way I feel like they don't make the playoffs is they somehow fall off or if they have injuries. We all know there's a bit of a controversy with Puka Nakua. He bit someone. He left someone with a bite mark, I guess. I don't know the whole story with that. I'm not sure if he'll get in trouble for it. Maybe he'll get suspended a few games. I'm not really sure what the whole story is with that. I don't know if he'll actually face any NFL wise punishment, but we'll have to wait and see. Because if he's like suspended for a few games, he is a huge chunk of their offense. Not saying they can't, perform because they still got Devontae Adams. They still got a solid core. So even without him, I still think they could win certainly plenty of games. I mean, but overall, is I think the Rams, their goal is to obviously win the Super Bowl. They can do it, and they possibly could. Um, again, they got a stacked roster. Again, they might get Aaron Donald. I mean, if they do, whew, yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But overall, the best case scenario for the Los Angeles Rams will be to walk out with a Super Bowl. So Matthew Stafford could likely just retire and ride off into the sunset. Now, the bad scenario, I'm not going to do this for every team, but like, what if they don't win the Super Bowl? I can honestly see Matthew Stafford sticking around for one more year. Especially, it depends on how the season ends. If it ends in the playoffs, like in the divisional round or championship game, and they're generally super close to winning the Super Bowl, or I mean, not really, but getting there, I could see him sticking around for one more year. If it's a disastrous type ending, like maybe, I don't know, in the divisional round, he throws like 3 picks and he just has a bad game. He might retire then and there, but I don't know. Overall, I mean, the whole thing with Matthew Stafford retiring is I could see him stick around for one more year if they don't make it and if they don't win the Super Bowl. But overall, again, the best case scenario for the Los Angeles Rams will, of course, to be winning Super Bowl 61 and let Matthew Stafford retire. And I mean, he likely would retire. I'm not sure if he'd actually, if they did win, I wonder if he would stick around. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the Rams. Let's move on to the Colts now. All right, let's move on to our next team. As again, I mentioned, it's the Colts. So here we got the Indianapolis Colts. We all know what happened to them last year. They started 7-1, and then Daniel Jones got hurt. They brought in Philip Rivers off the couch, and well, you know the story. They missed the playoffs. They kind of fell off, and I mean, even if Daniel Jones doesn't get hurt, they probably still could make the playoffs. Well, no, they still maybe make the playoffs, maybe. But they're not better than the Jags, that's for sure. I honestly think the Colts were extremely overhyped last year. Um, they weren't that elite, and they generally fell off in general. Even before Daniel Jones got hurt, they started losing games and they started showing their weaknesses and yada yada. They wouldn't have done much in the playoffs. But anyways, their schedule, their first 3 weeks are not particularly easy. Ravens, Chiefs, Texans. That's a possible 0-3 start, to be honest. I don't think the Colts are better than any of these teams, even if the Ravens are mid or if the Chiefs are mid. I think that's a potential 0-3 start. They can beat the Commanders, maybe. They could possibly beat the Steelers and the Titans, Vikings, again, it really just depends on their quarterback situation. If the Vikings have a competent quarterback, well, then it's going to be a problem. Then, of course, they got their divisional opponents, the Cowboys, and the Eagles, and the Bengals. They got some tough opponents, okay, and I don't think the Colts are better than the Texans or the Jags. Now, yeah, we all know the Texans' offense can occasionally be abysmally terrible, but their defense is what carries them, and doesn't matter. The Texans' defense is just that good, and the Jags are honestly a better team. We all know again. Matthew Stafford, or not Matthew. Why did I say Matthew Stafford? Daniel Jones. He had a pretty bad injury. What did he have? Torn. I don't remember his injury anymore. I forgot it, but it's one of those injuries that can potentially carry forward to the next year, especially with the fact that he was injured late in the year. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know any of this stuff, but if he's there week 1, good for them. I still think they could potentially start 1-2 or 0-3. Especially if he's not ready by that time, he misses like maybe 3 weeks. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know the whole thing about it, but they definitely go 0-3. But I don't think they're better than any of the teams they're facing for the first 3 weeks. I don't think they're better than the Texans. I don't think they're better than the Chiefs. I don't think they're better than the Ravens. I said that in a completely backwards way of their actual schedule, but you get what I'm saying. Now, again, let's get to the positives. What could be their best case scenario? Well, I mean, I would say it's just to simply make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in a long time. They've had many shots where they've gotten really close to it, but they fumbled and choked. Um, they've always fallen apart over the last few years if they've ever gotten close to making the playoffs. And I think their goal is to simply get back to the playoffs, potentially even win their division. Considering the AFC South isn't particularly a strong division, as we all know. The Jaguars, sure, they're good. They had a good season last year, but they could easily fall off. Like, what year was it? The 2021 season where they made the playoffs, or was it 2022? It was one, I don't remember what year it was, but they made that comeback against the Chargers, and then they missed the playoffs the following year. So anything can really happen with the Texans or the Jaguars. I would simply say the goal for the Indianapolis Colts is to make the playoffs because they haven't made the playoffs in years. Get a wild card win, maybe make it to the division round. Maybe give the I don't know, give whoever you face in said division round a run for the money. Maybe even make the championship game. However, I just don't think that'll happen. But I do believe they certainly could make the playoffs. I think they possibly could if things go their way, especially if they're able to play as good as they did for the beginning of the year, at least how they performed a little bit last year. Even though if I said they were a bit overrated, they still were a solid team and they weren't terrible by any means. So, anyways, the best case scenario for the Indianapolis Colts will be to simply make the playoffs again. Okay, because it's been a while. I don't remember how long of a drought it's been, but it's been a while. So that's going to wrap up for the Colts. All right, next up we have the Arizona Cardinals, and I know I'm a Seahawks fan, but I'm going to be real in a non-biased way, in a non-hater way, to hater rivalry, of course. Um, there isn't much positive to say about this team. There isn't. Week one, they start with the Chargers. That is a loss. Week two, against the Seahawks. That is a loss. Week three, against the 49ers. They get their ass kicked. Week four, against the Giants. I still think the Giants are a better team. I mean, their schedule's brutal. Giants, that's a loss. Detroit, that's a loss. Rams, oh my God, they get shredded. Denver, oh my, Denver's gonna, Denver, they're not gonna put a single point against Denver, I don't think. Dallas is gonna have fun on offense, and they're gonna absolutely shred them. The Seahawks will 100% sweep them. So would basically everyone else in the division. Rams, Chiefs, Commanders, Eagles, Jets, Saints, Raiders, and 49ers. Now, maybe they can beat the Jets. Maybe they can beat the Jets. Maybe they can pull off an upset here and there against a random team. Maybe they can pull off an upset against the 49ers in week 18 because maybe the Niners have already clinched the playoff spot and they're resting their starters and they don't need to worry about it. This is not. I'm sorry. I'm not. I can't be positive about this team because they suck. Jacoby Brissett is their official quarterback. I don't think Carson Beck will be starting. He's the quarterback, right? He's the guy they drafted, right? I don't remember anymore. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett's gonna be the quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr. Some reports at camp he's still not that supposed generational talent that Arizona thought that he was when they drafted him. What, fourth or third overall back in whatever year it was? You get what I'm saying. It's not going to be a good year for this for the. It's not going to be a good year at all for them. It's going to be a really rough time, to be honest. Like I know I said I would give each team like a positive thing, but I'm sorry, I cannot be positive with the Cardinals. They don't have a great roster. They don't have an easy schedule. This schedule is generally brutal. I could generally see them winning maybe 3 games. They might go 3-14. They might even win just 2 games. They might even go 0-17. Like the Cardinals have a way higher chance of going 0-17 than the Rams have of going 17-0. I'm sorry. The Cardinals are not going to have a good year. Sorry, Cardinals fans, if any of you watch my videos. It's not going to be a good year. Maybe you can pull off a few upsets here and there. I know any given Sunday's a thing. Injuries happen. Maybe you can get a win because said quarterback on a certain team is hurt and the backup sucks or something or whatever. But I don't think there's going to be many games that the Cardinals win based on their skill. It's going to be like some Looney Tunes type stuff, or it's going to be against the Jets, or a late week game where that said team is resting their starters. It's not going to be a good year. I'm sorry. I know they had some good draft picks, and they're building something in Arizona. It's just not very good. It's not good. It's not very good just yet. Yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the Cardinals. Wait, I didn't even give them a best case scenario. Just simply suck, I guess. Don't overachieve. Just suck so you can get a better draft pick, to be honest. Okay, their best case scenario is to finish the year with maybe a top 5 pick. That's how it'll go. Possibly top three if it's that bad. Top three. They can really use that. Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the Cardinals. Sorry, guys, it's not positive for them at all. Next team will, of course, be the Dallas Cowboys. What is their best case scenario? I kind of lost the plot when I was talking about the Cardinals. I almost forgot to give them even the best case scenario. So, Cowboys, we all know they've missed the playoffs. I think the last 2 years. Have they missed the playoffs the last 2 years? Maybe even three at this point. I don't actually remember. It's been a while since they made the playoffs, actually. And they've had good rosters. They've had generally good pieces on this team. They obviously have a nice duo with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. And Dak Prescott. I know people hate on him sometimes, but he is a good quarterback. He just doesn't have a perfect team, if I would say that. Their schedule isn't particularly difficult either. Week 1 and 2 are against the Commanders and Giants. They could potentially start 2-0. The Ravens could give them trouble. I don't know if they could beat them, but that's a 2-1 start at the end of the day, possibly. The Texans are a really good team that could really be a toss-up. But they got the Texans, Buccaneers, Packers, who pretty much own them. They're going to lose that game, to be honest. Eagles, Cardinals, Colts, Niners. Niners also own them. Titans, Eagles, Seahawks, Rams, Jaguars, Giants again, and Commanders again. They got some tough games. Like, I don't think they're going to beat the Rams. I don't think they could possibly beat the Seahawks either, or even the 49ers since they own them, and also the Packers. But overall, can they make the playoffs is the question of the day. Maybe. Maybe, to be honest, maybe. Their best case scenario would just simply make the playoffs again. They've missed the playoffs for the last, 3 years, I think, at most. I think the last time they made the playoffs was the 2023 NFL season. And obviously, it's been a while. Actually, I'm going to check. I'm going to fact check that just in case. So, yes, the last time the Dallas Cowboys made the playoffs was the 2023-2024 NFL season, where their playoffs ended to the Packers in 2024. So, it's technically been 2 years. It's been a while. It's been a while. The Cowboys, they have a good roster. They've had good draft picks. They generally have a good team. It's just they can't put it together. The thing is, they face a lot of contenders, actually. They face a lot of playoff teams from last year in their schedule. The Texans, Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, and Jaguars. Am I forgetting that? I think I'm getting everyone. I think that's mostly everyone, yeah. They face a good amount of playoff teams from last year. If they can even beat some of them, which I did say they would likely lose some of these games, to be honest, but can they beat the Seahawks? Maybe. If they can pull off an upset against the Seahawks, that'd be crazy. If they could beat the Rams, that'd be even crazier. Especially beating teams that own you, like the 49ers or Packers, that'd be even crazier. Will that happen? Who knows? But the Cowboys, it's been a while since they made the playoffs. It's been a while. Can they break this cycle of just being mid? Because they've been mid for the last 2 years. They were mid this year, and they were mid last year, the year before. They were mid in 2025, and they were mid in 2024, essentially. They have not been that great. They've just been middle of the road, not terrible, but not good either. Now, can they win their division? That'd be huge. Again, you still have the Eagles in that division. They're, still a good team. Some people would say they regressed after losing A.J. Brown, but they're still a solid team. They're still a good team that can compete. On reality, honestly, I think the goal for the Cowboys is to make it back to the playoffs. It's been 2 years. If you can make a playoff appearance, that'd be huge for you guys. It'd be huge for the Cowboys. Now, a NFC Championship game appearance, maybe. Just maybe. It's been a long time since that's happened too. But if they can win the division, make the playoffs, maybe beat one of the teams that happens to own them, like the Packers or 49ers, if either of those teams make the playoffs, that'd be pretty big. That'd be a pretty big boost to them. But Super Bowl appearances, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're better. I don't think they're better than the Seahawks. I don't think they're better than the Rams. If the Lions are back in the playoffs, I don't think they're better than the Lions. It all depends on certain things. But the best case scenario for the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion, will be simple as this: get back to the playoffs and win your division. It's mostly the playoff part, but technically winning the division is a guaranteed playoff spot. But yeah, make the playoffs again. It's been a while. Can you do it? Can they do it? We'll see. But the best case scenario for the Dallas Cowboys will be to make the playoffs. Our next team, I honestly don't know if I have much of positive to say on them either. The Miami Dolphins. I'm going to be real. They're they're not that good of a team. They've been irrelevant for the last few years. They've been just generally bad. They just really they let Tyreek Hill go. Not saying that mattered because he had a pretty bad injury and his leg is still fucked up. So I don't even think he'll find a team this year, to be honest. The schedule isn't. I actually looking closer at it is a little difficult. Week 1 against the Raiders, that's a possible win. Week 2 against the Niners are getting stomped. Week 3 against the Chiefs are getting stomped. Week 4 against the Vikings are getting stomped. Week 5 against the Bengals, they're being stomped. Yeah, I just and you look at the other opponents: the Lions, the Bills, well, the divisional rivals, my bad, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Packers, and the Chargers. I know they got Malik Willis. They signed him to what, a three-year deal, even though yeah, he had some good moments in Green Bay as a backup, but that's a lot of that's a lot of bet on a guy who really just doesn't have much playing time. And maybe he's the guy. Maybe he could be their quarterback. But to be honest, what does it matter? They also don't have Jalen Waddle. Their offense is not good. They've let go almost all their weapons except for Devon Achane. That's all they got. Who else do they got on that offense? Nobody. Their defense is just underwhelming. This team is just underwhelming. Even if Malik Willis is able to put up a good performance, I don't think it's going to matter. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans, but I think your team is very similar to the Cardinals, to where you won't be. I don't think they'll be as bad as the Cardinals, but they do have a tough schedule, almost equal to the Cardinals. To be honest, it's just a little bit easier. They have a couple. Actually, no, it's just as bad. Honestly, it's just as tough. I don't know if they'll be as bad as the Cardinals, though. To be real, I don't think they'll be that terrible to win. They only win 3 games or 2 games or 4 games. I think the Dolphins could maybe realistically win between 5 to 7 games. At the end of the day, I see them going 7-10 possibly, maybe 6-11. I don't even know what the best case scenario for them would be. Sucks so you can get more draft capital and build your offense again and build your defense. I don't know. I do wish Malik Willis luck, and kind of sucks that he's stuck on a shitty team. But if he can prove himself, maybe they'll invest and actually build a team around him, and he can have something. But overall, for the Dolphins, I just don't see much happening. I'm sorry. So we're gonna move on to our next team now. Our next team will, of course, be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we all know Mike Tomlin is no longer their coach. Does the Tomlin effect of always having a winning record and always stinking into the playoffs, is that a faded ability now? Is that ability not a thing anymore? We'll have to wait and see. Listen, I'm going to be real. The Steelers are they're a pretty mid team. Their schedule isn't particularly difficult. Week 1 and 2 are against the Falcons and, wait, I almost read that wrong. Falcons, that's a possible win, but Patriots, they lose, I think. Bengals, I mean, they always kind of split with their divisional rivals, to be honest. But just looking at their schedule kind of closely, it's not particularly easy. I don't know. I think they can win some of these games, the majority of these games maybe. But listen, Aaron Rodgers is old, okay? He's old, and I really wish he could get one more ring. That'd be awesome for him because he's like one of those quarterbacks that you look at like, how does this guy only have one ring? You know? And that's not the dish on him anyway. He's an elite, all-time great quarterback. It's just a shame he only has one ring, to be honest, because he'll always kind of be overshadowed by like Brady, who has like 8 more than him, or 7 more than him. My bad, 6, I think. Oh, I actually know how many rings he has anymore. I think he has 6. Or is this? Maybe it's 7. I don't know. But point being, a lot of people always compare the two, but they always say Brady's better because of his ring count. But to be honest, give Aaron Rodgers an elite defense or even a stable offense, he would have at least a few more rings, to be honest. He would have at least 2 or 3 more rings, to be honest, under his belt. But anyways, overall, let's talk about the Steelers. I look at the Steelers roster and it's just kind of mid. All right, on offense you got DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. I'm not saying they're bad, but are they top 5 receivers? No. Are they top 10 receivers? No. Are they top 3? No. I'm not saying you need a top 3 or 5 or receiver to win a Super Bowl or even be good, but I just look at the Steelers team, there's just not much to be desired. The offense is okay, but there have been times where the Steelers offense last year, especially, where their offense was just abysmal and bad. And that's just kind of how it's been, It's just been miserable and bad and just, not miserable and bad, but like it's been pretty off. Their defense always gets a lot of hype, but then their defense sucks in very important moments, and they just cannot. Their defense, the whole Steelers defense being that good, their defense is obviously really overrated. They never ever really play up to the hype they get occasionally, and I'm gonna be real. I just don't know what the best case scenario for this team would be. I guess to make the playoffs again. To be positive, you would want to get Aaron Rodgers one more ring, but I just don't think that's going to happen for them. I don't think it's going to happen for this team. I'm sorry. It'd be awesome. It'd be really cool for Aaron Rodgers to get one more ring under his belt. I'd love to see that. I would love to. But I just don't see it happening, man. I don't see it happening. In all reality, the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers is to make the playoffs, maybe get a wild card win because they haven't been able to do that for the last 10 years or so. They've been wild card merchants and they always lose. Yeah, make the playoffs, maybe get a win, but I don't think a Super Bowl is in their possibility unless every other team in the AFC just dies. I just don't think a Super Bowl is a possibility. I don't think an AFC Championship game appearance is a possibility. I just look at the Steelers and they're just kind of there. Their roster isn't perfect. It's not great. Their roster is just kind of there. They have some good pieces here and there, and their defense can occasionally be generally good. Sometimes they'll go let up 10 points and then they'll go let up 30. They're just eh. I don't think a Super Bowl is possible. I do think a playoff appearance is possible. It kind of just depends on how things go in the AFC. But if the Bengals and Ravens are back to being good, well, then I don't think the Steelers find a way into the playoffs. I think they miss the playoffs, especially if those two teams are back to being good, especially the Bengals. But overall, best case scenario for the Steelers is to make the playoffs. Maybe make an upset happen, maybe squeak in, maybe squeak somewhere, but just I don't see much happening with them, to be honest. All right, next team up is in the NFC side, which worst division, NFC South. The New Orleans Saints are next, and you know what? Let's talk about the Saints. I'm not overly negative. They're not a shit team. They have really good pieces. They've made good moves, and they're overall not an awful team. But listen, week 1 and 2 against the Ravens and Lions, that's an 0-2 start. I'm sorry, that's an 0-2 start. Then you go beat the Raiders and possibly maybe beat the Falcons, but it kind of depends on how things go. But overall, that's a possible win. Their schedule isn't particularly difficult. I mean, the Vikings, again, it really just depends on how their quarterback room performs. The Giants are an improved team, but that can go either way. The Steelers in Paris, in France, that could be an interesting game. Then they got the Browns, Panthers, Bears, Bengals, Packers, Panthers, Buccaneers, I almost said Saints, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Falcons, and Buccaneers again. They are in the worst division in football, though, by far. Okay, they play in the NFC South. We all saw the Panthers win the division at 8-9. So, if making the playoffs at 8-9 is possible, then the Saints almost qualified. If they can, I honestly think they could make the playoffs. So I know I was kind of being a little negative on them. I think a playoff appearance is very possible. It's just a slim chance. And really, it's not possible because they're an elite team by any means. It's just possible because their division's absolute ass. Boy, the NFC South is terrible. It is a wasteland of a division. And honestly, any 4 of the teams can make it, but not because they're good. It's because the division sucks. And all 4 teams equally suck ass. I'm joking. I mean, that's sort of true, to be honest. But overall, playoffs are possible for the Saints. They're somewhat possible. Certain things have to go their way. It's possible. We'll have to wait and see if that actually happens. But it's not impossible. And they have some solid pieces on this team. What's his last name? Tyler Shaw or something? But Tyler Shaw, he played some pretty good football near the end of the year last year, even if some people say, they're playing against shit teams or it's the late end of the year. Of course they're going to play good. To save their jobs, of course, whatever. I mean, listen. If they could play good, just good against some of these teams and pull off an upset here and there, and win at least 8 to 9 games, the I would say the best, the guarantee of making the playoffs or winning your division in the NFC South is win 8 to 10 games, because half of the division is going to go 8-9. You know, maybe if you could at least go 9-8 or 10-7, you get a win in the division. You get the division and you get the playoff appearance. It's possible for the Saints. It really is. And again, it's mostly because the division's bad. I'm not trying to shit on the Saints too much, but I don't think it's going to happen because the Saints are going to go 13-4 or 14-3 or 12-5. It's not going to happen because of that. It's going to happen because the division sucks. Overall, I do believe a playoff appearance is possible. It's just, it needs a lot of things to go their way, particularly the division to go their way, because it's not happening if it doesn't go their way. So yeah, best case scenario for the New Orleans Saints is a possible playoff appearance. Worst case, if they don't make the playoffs, at least, I don't know, draft good next year. Maybe make a big trade and acquire someone big. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I do believe a playoff appearance is slightly possible because of how bad the division is. Our final team for part one will be the Jacksonville Jaguars. What is their best case scenario, you may ask? Now, we all know they made the playoffs last year, and they generally were a good team last year. Were they what? Were they the second seed or were they the third seed? They're a pretty high seed, I know that for a fact. I just don't remember where they were. They were a good team, of course. We all know that their playoff hopes, which were a little short-lived as they lost to the Bills. But, nevertheless, their schedule has some tough games. Okay, week 1, they can certainly win. They can certainly beat the Browns. Week 2, they did already beat the Broncos last year, but this is a new year. Broncos are a bit better. We'll have to wait and see. They face the Patriots, Bengals, Eagles, Texans, of course, Colts, Ravens, Titans, Giants, Titans again, Bears, Steelers, Texans, Cowboys, Commanders, Colts. Listen, they could win the division again just due to the fact that the Texans have a terrible, terrible offense. Now maybe the Texans offense maybe wakes up, and if the Texans have if the Texans have a competent offense, they win the division. But they don't. At least we don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But they got some winnable games. I do think they can split with the Texans, possibly. The Jags are a good team. They have a good offense. They got Trevor Lawrence. He's playing well. He's playing well, and he's a good quarterback. And I do believe they'll probably make the playoffs again. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say their best case scenario is to make, I don't know if I want to say, I would say AFC Championship game appearance, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I do think they can have another good year where they go 13-4, maybe, or whatever they went last year, or 12-5 at most. They can win they can at least make the playoffs again. They can win the division again, make the playoffs again. But the difference is they can make an AFC, I almost said NFC, AFC Championship game appearance very possibly, or at least just another playoff appearance. But I don't know if I want to say get to the Super Bowl but the thing is, the AFC is kind of wide open in the grand scheme of things. Because you look at the Chiefs. Are they going to be back? No one knows. No one knows if they're going to be back yet. I mean, no one knows if Patrick Mahomes is going to be 100% ready by week 1. No one knows if the Chiefs will even be back on top. No one knows if the Bills or Broncos or any. I mean, not saying it's like wide open. You know, they're obviously, you've got your contenders, your top teams. But we all know the Patriots are going to regress a little bit because they really heavily benefited from that easy schedule they had, the cupcake season they had. But you know, I think the Jags are a good team. I think the Jags are a good team, and they can certainly make the playoffs again, and they could possibly make an AFC Championship game appearance. But then again, I don't know yet. Overall, I think their best case scenario is to simply win the division, make the playoffs, maybe make the AFC Championship game. I don't know. It's kind of hard to predict, but that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Part 2, I will try to get it out as soon as possible. I work the next few days, and I got some plans later on, so I don't know when I'll be able to make the video, when it'll be out, but certainly it's finally good to have part 1 ready and out. But for now, part 2 is coming, part 3 is coming, part 4 is coming. You'll see those videos in the near future, very near future, within at least a few weeks at most. I want to have part 2 at least out probably in a few days at most, maybe. But then part 3 will drop the following week, and then part 4 will drop possibly the same week or at least the following week as well. More videos, of course, are in the works. I am going to be doing I might be doing a power rankings video. I've never done one before, but we might do one. We're also going to be doing a hot takes for the 2026 NFL season very soon. I think that I'm going to try to get that video out as soon as possible. I have it almost ready to be made. I had to collect more hot takes because I didn't get that many last time I put on my story on Instagram. But nevertheless, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a great rest of your day.